Good afternoon, students. Today I am going to talk about Rasha Theory, which is taught in MA Literature, MA English Literature semester 3. And Rasha Theory, you see, is related to Indian poetics. Indian poetics are something which are very well developed and as ancient as 4th century BC, and it was expounded mainly by Bharat Muni in his Natya Shastra. Bharat Muni was an ancient Indian theatrologist, musiciologist, and who wrote Natya Shastra, and especially he wrote about Indian drama in Sanskrit. Bharat Muni is considered as the father of Indian theatrical art forms. Now, Natya Shastra is almost an encyclopedic treatise on the arts which has influenced dance, music and other literary traditions in India. Bharat Muni expounded the relationship between, you see, performers and audiences through ras, bhav and anubhava. He elucidated 8 types of rasa and their corresponding bhavas, which is emotion. A ras is an emotional state. In other words, ras is a juice or elixir or sap. A ras is usually the dominant emotional theme through a work of art. It is the delight and pleasure experienced directly from art. Bhava means to become. It is a state of mind and its outcome is rasa. Now, comprising about 6,000 couplets in Sanskrit and spreading over 36 chapters, Natya Shastra focus was mainly on dance and drama with music as an aid. The title is a combination of 2 Sanskrit words, Natya Shastra, Natya and Shastra. And Natya refers to the technique of drama and dance, and Shastra is, of course, the science. It is the magnum opus that describes the relationship between the director and the audience, structuring a play, acting techniques, costumes and makeup, music and musical instruments to be used, the dimensions of the stage and the decorations with lighting and size of the hall and seating of audience. So, technically it is all very well described and very well presented. The Rasha theory originated with Bharat Muni and it claims that the object or meaning that is sought in literary compositions is in the nature of an emotional effect of diverse human experience on man's mind and heart. The concept of rasa is fundamental to many Indian literary art forms such as dance, music, theatre, cinema and literature. The interpretation, usage and actual performance of a particular rasa differs greatly between different schools and different styles of abhinay. The word rasa is, of course, you see, very simple and at the same time most complicated expression, bewildering expression in the Sanskrit language. It is the simplest in the sense that even an illiterate person can understand it. On the other hand, a very sophisticated person can give many interpretations of the word rasa. The word rasa conveys many different meanings in different contexts. Rasa literally means juice, elixir or essence, and rasa is called the very soul of poetry and the drama and the dramatic poetry. It is the basic ingredient of a poem. Bharat Muni declared that no meaning can proceed from speech in the absence of rasa. In other words, a poem cannot come to life without rasa. Bharat Muni has illustrated this continuity of the poetic process with the tree seed analogy, flower analogy. He says, just as a tree flowers from seeds and flowers and fruits from the tree, so the rasas are the roots of all the bhavas and likewise all the bhavas exist. Now, I am going to talk about the stages of Natya Shastra. According to Bharat Muni, the realization of rasa results from the combination of vibhavas, anubhavas and vyabhichari bhav. How rasa is tasted? Just as we taste food and we find different flavors in the food, it can be sour, it can be sweet, it can be bitter. In the same way, poetry has many rasas. It can be shok, it can be hasya, it can be krodh, and it can be many more other interpretations. Now, the Ras Sutra occurs in the 6th chapter of the Natya Shastra, and the sutra is Vibhav Anubhav Vyabhichari Bhava Samayoga Rasa Nishpatti, meaning when Vibhav, Anubhav and Vyabhichari Bhav combine, then they give rise to the ultimate emotion which is known as rasas. Before proceeding further, I would like to talk about sthai bhavas. The sthai bhavas are the permanent or the dominating emotions or moods, and they are 8 in number. First is rati, that is love, hasya, humor, shok, sorrow, krodh, anger, utsah, enthusiasm, bhay, fear, jugupsa, disgust, and vismay. Later on, Abhinav Gupta and Anand Vardhan added the 9th rasa, and that was passiveness, which was added later on. Now, sthai bhav, they are, as we know from the word, the meaning of the word, sthai bhavas are the basis of rasa and are supreme among all bhavas, which are 49 in number. So, sthai bhavas are the permanent emotions. They literally stay with the person, they literally stay with the dramatist, and they are like the garlands, and they run through all the literary creations. The sthai bhavas are the basis and they form the core of rasa. Now, I will talk about vibhav and anubhavas. Vibhavas are the stimuli that can stimulate an emotion, and they are of 2 types, environmental and human. Like I will talk about alamban vibhav. I will just repeat. They are of the bhavas. First, they are vibhav and anubhav. Now, vibhav are of 2 types, and they are environmental and human. The first is alamban vibhav, that is human. Now, human vibhav is alamban vibhav, that is, it is stimulated by the human element. Like rati is the sthai bhav, but what is the human stimulant? Human stimulant is the beloved. Now, Uddipan vibhav, it is related to the environmental. Like the rati, she is responsible for the arousal of the emotion of love. But what is the environment? The spring season, the moonlight, soft breeze, and all these things are Uddipan vibhav, that is the external or the environmental stimuli. Now, they enhance the emotive effect of the focal point, that is the beloved. So, vibhavas are of 2 types, Uddipan vibhav and alamban vibhav. Alamban vibhav is related to human and Uddipan vibhav is related to the environment. Bharat Muni has explained the role of Uddipan vibhav, and he says that Uddipan vibhav ultimately results in vibhav. Now, vibhavas are so called because of the 3 types of abhinayas. How they are implemented, it is through speech, gestures and involuntary responses, and that is vibhavayante, that is made, that vibhavayante means that is how they are made known to us. After the vibhavas, I am going to talk about the anubhavas. Now, anubhava is the external manifestation of the emotions evoked or excited by the vibhavas. They suggest and indicate the effect wrought upon the characters after the emotions have been evoked. As we say in Hindi, anubhav, the resultant emotion, how you feel. So, anubhav is, you see, it is called so because the spectators feels the effect of abhinay by means of words, and here all the time Bharat Muni is talking about drama. So, through the gestures, speech and words of the actors, the audience undergoes a certain experience, and the resultant experience is known as anubhava. The involuntary emotions are also there. There is speech, there is gesture, and there are certain involuntary emotions that happen automatically and without any control, and there are 8 in number, that is stumble, paralysis, swathe, perspiration, romance, swarsed, vipatu, vyavern, asuru and paralay. Paralay means fainting. After talking about vibhav and anubhavas and sthai bhavas, now I am talking about vyabhichari bhavas. As I said earlier also, vibhav, anubhava, vyabhichari bhava, samayoga, ras nishpatti. So, after discussing vibhav and anubhavas, I am going to discuss vyabhichari bhavas. Now, in addition to the 8 principal emotions of love, laughter, grief, anger, courage, disgust and wonder, there are 36 subsidiary and transient emotions which accompany them. And they are, Bharat Muni explains, they move in relation to the principal emotions. I mean, they help in the formation of the main rasa. They if we talk about Bharat Muni's treatise, we can compare it with Shakespeare also. Shakespeare talks about, as A.C. Bradley, if we talk of A.C. Bradley, Shakespeare talks about a tragic hero, an ideal tragic hero, and then there is that the emotions of pity and fear. If we go to Aristotle also, if I am going to compare it, the Indian poetics and the Sanskrit English drama and the Greek drama. Now, in Greek tragedy, Aristotle talks about tragedy and he defines tragedy as an imitation of an action that is serious and complete in itself and arousing the feelings of pity and fear. So, there is only one thing, pity and fear. And of course, he talks about the figures of speech. Bharat Muni, when he talks about drama, he says that on the stage, death should not be shown. Now, this is very much different from our English drama, where Shakespeare talks about, Shakespeare has written the tragedies where there is an ideal tragic hero, and that ideal tragic hero is a person of higher birth, but he has a tragic flaw, and that tragic flaw is ultimately responsible for the downfall of that person and ultimately responsible for the tragedy. But when we come to Indian poetics, if I talk about Kalidas, Abhigyan Shakuntalam, we talk about King Dushyant, and King Dushyant, as the story goes, he said, the dramatics say that King Dushyant married Shakuntala and then he came back and he forgot Shakuntala because of a curse given by Rishi Durvasa. But this is only a dramatic, you see, imagination. Why? Because Indian poetics say that there should not be any tragic flaw or any serious shortcoming in the character of the hero. So, King Dushyant is shown to forget his wife, his pregnant wife, because of Durvasa Rishi's curse. But the reality is very different. If you study, when we study Mahabharata and the stories before the Mahabharata, we come to know that King Dushyant, you know, he never forgot Shakuntala, and Shakuntala, his relationship with Shakuntala was only a passing affair. When he came back to his state, he seemed to forget her. Shakuntala also was not a very docile, innocent girl. She knew that she is dating an emperor, and so she wanted to become a queen, and so this combination happened and she became pregnant. Now, Kalidas, when talks about vibhavas and anubhavas, you see the rati bhav, like Shakuntala, you know, she loves the flowers and all the trees and all the creepers of her ashram, and she is a very innocent damsel shown there. So, she is in love with nature. So, all these Uddipan Vibhav, Alamban Vibhav, like Alamban Vibhav is the human this thing. So, Shakuntala's beauty is that thing which rouses the emotion of love in King Dushyant, and Uddipan Vibhavas are the natural surroundings, beauty, the flowers and everything. Ultimately, King Dushyant marries her and goes back to his estate, and he forgets to call for her. When Rishi Kant, the foster father, comes back and he comes to know about the story, he plans to send his daughter, foster daughter, to the husband because she is pregnant. And when they go there, there is the story that the ring that was given as a token of his remembrance is, you see, it falls in the river and Dushyant forgets. And when she goes to the court, Dushyant refuses to recognize it. Now, we all have believed this story, but in reality, there was none such curse. So, all these poetics, Indian poetics, but Kalidas, Kavi Kalidas, he is known as Shakespeare of Indian poetics, but I think beautiful drama he has written, whether it is Meghdutam or anything else, and Kalidas never shown any shortcoming of the character of Dushyant. If we contrast it with Hamlet, the emotions of Shok, Krodh, it is everything is there. In Abhigyan Shakuntalam also, the emotion of Krodh is there, Shok is there, Hasya is there, Rati is there, Vismay is there, Jugupsa is there. When we come to Hamlet, Hamlet also is a hero of a higher birth, Prince of Denmark. But Hamlet, Hamlet is a revenge tragedy, and in the end the stage is littered with dead bodies. So, this is a clear contrast to the Indian poetics where nothing is shown, though in the play Abhigyan Shakuntalam, when Bharat Muni is coming from a battle, he comes back from a battle, there he meets his son Bharat, who is who can kill the tigers, who can trap the tigers, who can entrap the tigers, who can imprison the tigers, who plays with tigers and all such things. But no violence is shown on the stage. Not a single violent act is shown on the Indian stage. That is the difference between Indian poetics and English poetics. In Hamlet, the theme of revenge is always there. At the back of the mind, the theme of revenge is always there. And Hamlet is a psychological case where so many psychiatrists had studied his psychological problems. If we try to analyze Hamlet from the Indian point of view, Indian poetics point of view, we can say that there is hate, and then there is Krodh, there is Vismay also. When Hamlet comes to know about that the fact that his father was murdered by his uncle Claudius and his mother remarried his uncle very quickly. So, all the time we analyze Indian literature from the British poetic point of view, English poetic point of view, we analyze literature from Greek point of view, but the fact remains that we have to analyze the poetics or the drama from the Indian poetics point of view also. And if we talk about that, what is the resultant emotion or the sthai bhava in the play Hamlet? It is of Shok. The ultimate resultant emotion is of Shok. If we talk about Abhigyan Shakuntalam, the ultimate resultant emotion is of happiness, Hasya. So, in all these emotions, Indian poetics and Western poetics, it makes a very interesting study, and this is a fact that the university has introduced Indian poetics or Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra because they want to educate the students about our inheritance also. We all have studied Shakespeare, we all have studied Christopher Marlowe, we study Bernard Shaw, but we do not know about the basics of our Indian poetics. The poetics which was so well developed since time immemorial, since 4th century BC, The poetics were so well developed and they had their own theories regarding the acting techniques, regarding the stagecraft, regarding the light arrangements and everything. And if we talk of Greek tragedy, there is that there should be a unity of time, action and place, that the action should be completed in 24 hours. But Indian poetics or even in Shakespearean drama, it spans over a long period of time. Literature cannot be bound by any rules, and this is very much clear when we study so many dramas. And even about, if we talk of Oedipus Rex also, the ultimate resultant emotion, if we analyze Oedipus Rex from Rasha theory point of view, then what is the resultant emotion? Dukh, Vismay. But that is the fate responsible. One thing which is very important is that in Greek tragedy, fate is responsible for the tragedy, for all the emotions of grief. In English, this thing, if we talk of Shakespeare and other English drama, what is responsible for the tragedy? The tragic flaw. And if we talk of Indian poetics, there is a beautiful combination of circumstances, fate and tragic flaws, as I gave the example continuously of Abhigyan Shakuntalam, where the students, you never knew about the famous legend. We all seem to believe the curse of Rishi Durvasa, but that curse was exactly never given. But the beauty of Abhigyan Shakuntalam is that Kalidas never, you see, sees a mar. The character of Dushyant is highlighted, the character of Shakuntala is highlighted, and they are painted beautifully with all the aspects of rasa. I will repeat again that Anubhav, Vibhav, Sanchari Bhav, Vyabhichari Bhav, they all form the core of rasa theory. Rasa is the ultimate resultant emotions, but rasa rises from a combination of various bhavas, which are transient emotions, which are intransient emotions, but ultimately the resultant emotions is rasa. Another thing is sadharanikaran. If I talk of sadharanikaran, Bharat Muni says that when the audience and the director and the actors become one, then that thing is sadharanikaran. It happens in our beautiful movies also, it happens in beautiful plays also, that when you identify completely with the actor, when you submerge your soul in the theme of that play, then that encompassing feeling is of sadharanikaran. So, Bharat Muni says that the ultimate resultant emotion rasa is successful only when the sadharanikaran happens, when the actors, audience, the director become one and they identify themselves with the work of art. After talking about Anubhavas, Vibhavas, Sthai Bhavas, Vyabhichari Bhavas, it is very pertinent to talk about the ultimate Naurasas. Indian poetics talk variously about the Naurasas, and they are Shringaras, Hasyaras, Raudras, Karuna, Vibhats, Bhayanak, Veerras, Adbhut and Shantras. Now, Shringaras is the main thing for emotions of love. The heroine of the play, the Naika, is always beautifully dressed Shringar, and that Shringar can be not only of the person, the Shringar can be of the place, of the court, anything. And Shringar is the aesthetic thing which gives beauty to the work of art. So, Shringar is very important in any work of art, and Shringar is related to the settings part. If we say Shringaras, then Shringar, the heroine or the hero, when they dress up, the stage setting, everything is related to Shringar. Sometimes it is Shringar is elaborated through the visuals, and sometimes the Shringar is also described when like describing the beauty or the dress up of the characters. If we talk about hasya, hasya is a very important emotion because hasya gives life to work of art and hasya gives life to all the human beings. The Indian poetics never had the division of tragedy and comedy, but the combination of happiness is always there, because the comic relief that we talk about in Shakespearean plays is there in Indian poetics, as the Vidushak was always there, whether it is Tenali Ram or the Birbal, that is later on, but in Sanskrit plays also the Vidushak is there, because when the play is very serious, the theme is very serious, then some relief is sought, and that results in hasya. And hasya is variously known as mirth and laughter. Now, Raudra Ras. Raudra Ras is very important when we want to talk about the fear rousing things, like in Ramayana. When Ravan is described, there is that Raudra Ras, because he is always very angry, he cannot tolerate anything, he is proud because he is the Swami of Teen Lok, as he feels, he can control the stars, he can win over the gods, and so he is always in his Raudra Roop. And for that Raudra Roop, the fury is shown, the anger is shown through many techniques, like Ravan is sometimes, he orders that there should, the tail of Hanumanji should be, you see, burnt. First he wants to kill, but when Vibhishan says that the ambassador or the Duta should not be killed, then that tail, is burnt. So, that is Raudra Roop of Ravan. But on the other hand, the Raudra Roop is shown also by Hanumanji, who jumps all over the Lanka, and the city of Lanka is turned into ashes. So, that ras is described, then that ras is Raudra Ras, Raudra. Then Karuna. Karuna is something very important, and Karuna is related to the mother figure also. Like Karuna, you feel kindness, you feel apathy, you feel so sympathetic for someone, Karuna, and Karuna can be felt for any character. Karuna, a mother can feel Karuna for her child, or like in Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Rishi Kanv, he feels Karuna for Shakuntala when the ambassador Van King Dushyant fails to recognize her. Now, Vibhats also, Vibhats means when you describe something that is very, very mundane, then Vibhats Ras is used, but Vibhats is the rarely used rasa in Indian poetics, because Indians do not usually describe the Vibhats part in detail. Bhayanak, it is frightening, like Mandodari is frightened when she comes to know about Sita's abduction, Hanumanji's powers, Ramchandraji's power, then that is all there. Then there is Veerta, there is marvelous, Adbhut. Ram making bridge in the Sagar, that is Adbhut, and that is the beauty of Ramayana. So, that is Adbhut Ras. Ultimately, I am going to sum it up, as we have discussed all the 9 rasas, and Indian poetics is very, very scientifically researched. Abhinav Gupta and Anand Vardhan also talked about the sound theories. We have our Indian phonetics. Anand Vardhan even had the Sphota theory, and here in Natya Shastra, Bharat Muni has explicitly given a very detailed version of Indian dramatic theory. Here I will sum up. Thank you.